command and to follow through, especially when your future self depends on it. And that's what the real definition of self-discipline is. In other words, we're saying that self-discipline is about keeping promise to your future self. So when people think of self-discipline, they think it's a punishment. It's something I have to do, but I don't really want to do it. So, and this is why it's blocking people from being consistent in terms of self-discipline. Now, I believe that when it comes to self-discipline, there are 3 areas. Well, let's really talk about the first one. In terms of career development, what will happen is if you have someone who's self-disciplined, they build a very strong reputation. You know, every organization has someone they feel like they can rely on. You know, most people don't know, I'm in a leadership position. We don't promote people just based on potential alone. Sometimes people think, well, I'm competent, Rudolph, I can do it, I have the potential. But it's not just based on your potential. It's based on how reliable you are. And the person who's self-disciplined is the person who shows up on time, who gets things done on a deadline. We know when it's time to promote them, we know this person we can promote because we can rely on them. So that when it comes to self-discipline, this is one key area that people really need to look at. You know, am I reliable? That's more I can share with you a bit later on. But
I like that. Okay. All right. So let's get into the major pillars you rightly outlined. So there are 3 to maybe 5 or so different. What are those markers that shows that you are self-disciplined?
Okay, so first of all, the person who's reliable, that's the first one.
That's one.
You know, that's a good one. And another thing where it shows someone who's self-disciplined is someone who's consistent, consistently shows up, you know, and consistency is one of the things that propel people to the next level. You see, sometimes people want to do things whenever they feel like, well, today I feel good, the sun is shining, it's raining outside, so I'll do it. But if someone who's consistent, someone who's reliable, these are traits of someone who's self-disciplined, someone who shows up on time, someone who doesn't make excuses. You know, when the CEO, the boss, or the manager gives you an assignment, it's not 21 reasons why they couldn't done. It's like, you told me to do this, I'm doing this. So these are some of the key things when it comes to self-discipline. You can say, oh, ask for that person's self-discipline.
Okay, I love that. Okay. If you're just tuning in, we're having a conversation on how self-discipline can help or hinder your progress in career development and the power in which it wields. What are some of the biggest errors that people do that make them seem as if they don't have self-discipline?
Well, first of all, I think one of the biggest error, AJ, is that people think that self-discipline is a personality trait. Or as for AJ, she's just someone who's self-disciplined. Self-discipline is actually a skill. And the thing with skills is every skill is learnable. Nobody's born more self-discipline than the other person. It's just something that you do over and over again. And because AJ does it over and over again, we then give her that personality trait that, well, as for AJ, she is self-disciplined. So one of the error people tell themselves, well, I'm 40 years old, I'm 50 years old, it's too late for me, I'll never be disciplined, I'm always going to be like that. That's not necessarily true. Self-discipline is a skill. A skill is learnable.
Okay.
So yeah,
that's quite interesting. So anybody can be able to learn it, and no matter the journey or point in which you are in your journey.
Yes, it's a skill like communication. You're great at communicating. This is your job. I'm sure you had to practice over and over again. It's the same with self-discipline. The more you keep repeating it, you keep doing it. I think the biggest error is people think it's a personality trait. This person's self-discipline is not a personality trait. This is my experience as a coach helping people, is that one of the things I tell them is it's a skill. You have to learn the skill. How do I learn it? Rudolph? By repeating it over and over again, so it becomes a second nature, and now people are identifying you as someone who's self-disciplined. So that's the biggest error. To the listeners out there, don't tell yourself, I don't care if you've not been disciplined for the last 25 years of your life. It's a skill that you can learn this very moment if you decide to learn.
Now, how do we? So I know I have self-discipline in certain areas of my life.
Right.
In work, in execution, in ideation, I'm really good at that. I'm able to keep on the track in academics. But I lack self-discipline when it comes down to my health, to my rest, and to exercise. Like, I don't know. And it's going to a point I'm like, you know what? I give up. So how do I hone that aspect, or in fact, any point, create or learn self-discipline in other aspects, including career development?
I think that's an intelligent question, AJ. It really boils down to having a very strong why you're doing the thing that you do. One thing I find out is that when people don't have a why they do something, they are going to throw off self-discipline. Let me give you an example, and it's a bit of an extreme one, but if I said to you, let's say someone say, I want to take care of my health, I want to go to the gym, I want to be very consistent with that, and if I told them, okay, if you don't go to the gym in the next six months, someone you truly love might lose their life, for example. That's very extreme. But what will happen to that individual, because they love that person, and the why is so strong, they're like, even if it's raining, sunny,
I'm going to be there.
I'm going to be there. I'm going to show that. Okay, let me give you another example. If I told you that if you walk on this dark alley road, there's a big box of gold, money, everything that you can think of is there. Now, whilst you're taking that road, maybe you're scared, you're like, oh, is this really going to work out? But then in your mind, you're like, oh, this why is strong, this gold, I'm going to follow through. So like I said, going back to my definition, is the ability to give yourself a command and follow through. But that command has to come with a strong why. If you don't have a why, you're going to throw off discipline. Why should I anyway? The reason why people show up at work is because they think, well, I'm going to get money.
Paid,
I'm going to get paid. So for some people, like, well, am I going to get paid to go to the gym? Nah, it's okay. Let me stay at home and binge flicks and Netflix and everything like that. So
okay, how do you create a good? Is there a way of forming a good why, or it must be internal?
Absolutely, it has to be internal. It always has to be internal. I can't give you a why because you can throw that off. Once you have a why, so this is why sometimes when people, let's go back to health, that when they get a health risk, maybe the doctor tells you, well, if you don't do this, all of a sudden, what happened to that person? That all of a sudden they've become very disciplined. The same individual, but now they've built a strong why. So to build a why, that individual need to sit down with themselves and tell themselves, why do I actually want to have a good career, for example? What is it going to do for me? What's it going to do for my family? And once they build a strong why, everything needs to start aligning to that to that why.
Now, coming to self-discipline in our career, how? And you've outlined certain points: consistency, being reliable. How do we hone these skills so that we become attractive in terms of career development?
Okay, so it all starts off small steps. One of the things, people focus too much on intensity. Let's use the health example again. People say they've not been going to the gym. All of a sudden, I'm going to go to the gym 6 days a week. What you need to start doing is just starting with building the small habits, because we are creatures of habits. Everything we do are creatures of habit. If you start deciding, well, I'm going to go once a month, I know you can once a week, I know you can commit to once a week, and then as slowly you build it up till you get to three days a week. So what I would tell the individual, if you want to build or hone those skills, it starts with small incremental movements. It's not instantly. Well, most people want, I think this is
drastic, instant, immediately.
AJ, this is the biggest temptation of our generation. We instant gratification. We want everything instantly, and if something doesn't happen instantly, we think it's not working. So I listen to you, you're good at what you're doing, but I'm sure it took it a while to get to this position.
About 12 years,
There you go. Someone will listen to AJ and be like, well, I think I can do that in 2 months. It just doesn't work like that. So it's about building that self-discipline. Like, it's a skill. Any skill, like communication. You didn't start speaking big vocabulary all of a sudden. You start saying mama, dada, and then eventually build it up from there. So it's just taking small steps.
Okay. How is there a way to position yourself in your career development to attract people that can help you in your journey? Because to be able to even get to a point of self-discipline or even earning leadership considerations, you need someone to sort of help you through it. How do you attract the right kind of mentor?
Absolutely. Great question. And before I answer that, I would like to chip in this. I was having a meeting or like a speaking engagement in Nigeria, and I said to them, self-discipline gives you opportunity, opens door for you and everything. And someone said to me, well, in this part of the world, Rudolph, it's not so much about self-discipline, it's about whom you know, which is an interesting statement. And I said, well, I understand that. But however, most people will only recommend individuals that they can rely on. Like, why? Because if I'm if I'm recommending someone to my CEO, what's going to happen is that I'm putting myself on the line. You know, and I know in some organizations they don't worry about the competency level, just like, oh, it came from Rudolph, so therefore we're going to accept them.
Yes.
However, sometimes that can have an effect. It's always going to have an effect. So now maybe your business is going down because you're just building it based on this person came from Rudolph. But what Rudolph should do is I should always recommend someone based on the competency levels, people who's reliable, that know I can get the job done. So for that individual, like you said, relationship is very important. In fact, people, like I said, managers are only interested in people they can rely on, people they think like, this person can get the job done. This person is self-disciplined. 10 o'clock means 10 o'clock. It doesn't mean 10:25, doesn't mean 10:05. 10 o'clock is 10 o'clock. So, yeah.
All right. Well, if you have any particular questions, you can send us a message, 0531 100927. That's 0531 100927. I'll be more than happy to ask right here on the show. I'm seated with celebrated personal development coach and author, Rudolph Brenyard, and he's getting us into a few of his details on how we can build self-discipline in our career development. A man who's spoken all across the world and has his best-selling book, Build Your Life to Inspire. Now, career development in itself sometimes is it's a tricky path to navigate. For some people, you would get a leader that would basically hold your hand through it. For some of them, you have to just navigate through consistency or building yourself up in there. And for some people, they're even confused if they really want to even be in that career, the chosen career path in the first place. Now, if you're probably in the third category where you're not entirely sure, how do you figure out yourself in a career where you're not necessarily sure if you even want to be in?
Okay, great question. So usually when it comes to self-discipline, you can navigate it through 3 Ds. First one is direction, second one is decision, and third one is defense. Now what I'll do, I'll go through all 3 of them. So the first one is where you're touching on direction. What exactly do I want to do? Where am I going? In order to be for self-discipline to be effective, AJ, you need to know your direction. Because if you don't have a direction, how do you know how you're going to be self-disciplined? And for that individual that's a little bit confused right now, said, Rudolph, well, I don't know what I'm doing with my life right now. I don't know. What I would tell that individual, what I help my clients with, is that they need to start sitting down and really start looking deep inside themselves and find out, why am I doing this? And what are my skills and my talent? You need to get away from distraction. It's really important. Now, when you look at biblical reference, for example, every time that God wanted to speak to someone, he would tell Moses, leave your people. When he wanted to speak to Abraham, let's meet in the mountain. So every time that you need to get away from distraction, because when you get away from distraction, now, of course, you don't physically have to go to the mountain, but what you need to do is sit down with yourself and say, like, what do I want to achieve in the next 3 years? That's the direction. And then the second one is decision. Now, every decision you make has to be in alignment with the direction you're going. You see, usually when I say, when you're on the road, there's no such thing as a bad exit. You know, I say the opposite of right, or the enemy of right, is not necessarily good. Is actually the opposite of right. The opposite of right is good, not necessarily bad, because everybody knows there's no such thing as a bad exit. The only exit that is right is depending on the direction I'm going to. So your direction is based on your decision needs to be in alignment with your direction. And the last one is really important, the defense. It's all based on, AJ, self-discipline has to do with what not to partake in as well. So if you know that this is the career you're going, you'll be careful what you're doing. I'll give myself as an example. When I was up and coming in this career, before I even got into this career, I was a very talented footballer, and the people around me, they were not really that positive. You know, there were a lot of negative stuff going on, and there was a world that was introduced to me that if I was to partake in that, one of the things I told myself, if I partake in this, I'm going to get either locked in prison or I'll end up being dead. And I said, well, I can't afford to do that. I know the direction I'm going. I want to be a professional footballer. So every decision I made has to be in line with it. Even though it was lucrative, or look at everything, the money, everything. But I said, no, I need to stick to this. So to that individual right now, maybe confused, like, I don't know what career to do, you need to sit down and ask yourself, like, what do I want to do? And then make sure that, number one, your decisions are in alignment with your direction and your defense. So everything you do. So that meaning that if I want to improve my communication, that means 1 hour of every day I'm going to improve my communication skill rather than binge watch Netflix for an hour. So those are the things that I would tell that individual.
I like that. In the combination of different things, in this day and age, a lot of people are doing gig economy, doing different things while also maintaining their career path. How can, because the balance, even beyond those that are doing gigs or second, third jobs, even those that are balancing family, it's very hard, and sometimes the lines can get blurred. How can one maintain self-discipline, especially when you have multiple things going on other than your chosen career?
Okay, so it all boils down to priority. So that individual, I can't tell you what you prioritize, but it all boils down to priority. So what is the most important thing for you? That's how you rank it. So if this is the most important thing for you, then you need to start working on that, and then everything else falls in line.
Okay.
You see, I usually tell people, people want to do 5 things at a time. Now, nothing wrong with that. I look back at some of the tech companies right now. Now, Apple, as we know, it didn't start off with an iPhone. It first actually started with a computer called Macintosh, and then after Macintosh became successful, then they included iPad, iPods and everything, and now we got an iPhone. What I'm telling that individual is sometimes focusing on one thing can open doors in many areas for you. You find a lot of musicians are doing acting. A lot of actors become musicians.
Yes.
Why? But they had to focus on one channel. Now, that doesn't mean you can't do other things. You can't be flexible, but it all boils down to priority. Which one is going to open more doors for you? You need to start looking at that. That will help you. Because I started as a speaker before I became a best-selling author.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I like that. Now, last, before we start wrapping up the conversation, self-discipline and self-image go hand in hand. How you perceive yourself is also sometimes how people perceive you. Now, how can you find a way to improve your self-image at the same time while also maintaining self-discipline? Is it something that can happen without the other? Can you improve upon one and still not have improved on the other one?
This is probably my favorite question of the day, because I'm also an identity strategist. I help people change the self-identity, self-image. So what it is, AJ, is that there's an important statement I always say, and I think I would love for the listeners to really pay attention to this. You will never outperform your self-image. What does that mean? That means that you can run on motivation, willpower, but however you see yourself internally is how you will act. That's the most important thing. So the reason why someone is not self-disciplined is because they believe that they are a procrastinator internally. They say to themselves, well, there's two people you can't lie to, yourself and God, they say. And all the person that knows all the lie that you've told is yourself. So what happens usually is people will say, for example, I don't think I can do it. Why don't you think you can do it? Because internally they know that before they told themselves they was going to do something and they never follow through. Remember, discipline is giving yourself command and follow through. And because you know that you didn't follow through, internally, you might not say outwardly, you say like, well, I'm a procrastinator, so therefore you're always going to define yourself as a procrastinator. So to change that, AJ, the first thing that they need to do is to, once again, sit down and challenge every belief they have concerning themselves. So why do I believe this about myself? And then start writing a new belief that they want, and they need to repeat it to themselves over and over again until they internalize it. And then you'll see that their self-image will begin to change. And then the person that thinks they're not disciplined will start being disciplined.
I like that. Now, since we're on the issue of identity and self-image, what are some of the, give me 2-3 quick tips that anyone who's struggling with self-image or identity can do? Maybe an exercise, maybe something that they can learn that would improve upon their self-image.
Okay, number 1, write down the new self-image that you want for yourself. That's the first thing. Number 2, start acting the way you want to behave based on that self-image. It's very important. Usually people feel like I'm faking it, but you're not faking it. You're building a new internal self-image. And number 3, collect proof. The more you collect proof, meaning like the more you keep going to the gym, you're going to start building your self-esteem, self-confidence, knowing knowing that, oh, the thing that I wrote down is actually true. So therefore, those are the 3 quick tips that I can give them. Write it down, then start acting like it, and then start collecting proofs to prove to yourself that actually, you know, I can follow through.
Now, final question is, the year is about to end. I mean, in 30 days, we'll wrap up the year.
Yes.
A lot of people have started off the year with resolutions. We're going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to achieve this, I'm going to achieve that. Then the year starts to enter, then things start to sort of unravel. Now, are you... Some people would have literally killed their minds by now that, oh, it's not possible to do it this year, I'm going to try it again next year. Is that the tangent people should be on? Is it that, no, even though the year is getting to an end, there's still 30 days more to still achieve? Is that the mindset to have, or say, let's start again in January?
Absolutely. Time is actually really kind of irrelevant in this. You should focus on the month of December. Things can change for people in 30 days. I know this because I work with my clients. You don't have to wait till New Year's resolution. In fact, what will happen for most people, you kindly said it, that they will start the New Year's resolution. 2 weeks later, they fall off and they're like, well, I will start again in 2027, and the cycle keep repeating itself. So what I would tell that individual is that the goals that you have right now, start it right now and carry it with you to the following year. Well, the only thing that's changing is the month and the year.
True.
You, the internal person, you're still the same person.
Yes.
So I'll tell that individual, just carry that dream, those goals, aspiration with you to 2026, but start right now. You should be excited. You got 30 days to start fresh. If you're behind right now, you can start fresh right now. So yeah.
I love that. I love that. I love that. And that's how we bring the conversation to an end. But not before I ask you how people can reach out and continue their own conversations with you. Are you in Ghana for a while?
Yes, I will be Ghana for a while, all the way to January. So
oh, nice.
Yes.
Okay. So how can people reach out and connect?
Definitely on all social media platforms. It's Rudolph, spelled with a F, Brenya, Brenya spelled with a H. We do live streams on TikTok every day, usually at 12 p.m. and 8 p.m. in the evening.
Oh, nice.
Yes, so people can learn a little bit more. And then on all social media platforms, YouTube, everything, you can find me there as well.
Amazing. How are you going to be spending your December?
A lot of work, a lot of interviews, a bit of course, enjoyment. You got to play a little bit.
Yes.
It's that to December after all.
Absolutely. You have to come to our events, the 3FM OY party.
Okay, when is that?
28th is the one that wraps up the whole year. Okay. No other enjoyments beats that one.
Okay, I'll be there.
Ladies and gentlemen, amazing conversation with Rudolph Brenya. He's a personal development coach, best-selling author, and available for you to reach out on Rudolph Brenya on all social media platforms. And you do a daily TikTok.
Yes, daily live stream. Yeah.
Live stream at 12?
At 12 p.m.
And then 8 p.m.
8 p.m.
Okay. So you can catch him in a few minutes live on TikTok for that exciting one. Rudolph, thank you so much for coming through.
Thanks so much for having me.
And we look forward to getting you soon. Hopefully we can start off the new year with some more from you.
Definitely,
and then see how that works. Yes. Now getting back into more great music. But first, before that, going to go into a quick break. When I come back, we'll get into a lot more gospel music right here on 3 Lounge.